Greetings, YouTube. Someone just recently, it may have been yesterday, asked me about how to convert 3.5 to Pathfinder. And I think a lot of that can just be done on the fly. You can use entire books and ventures from 3.5 in the Pathfinder rule system without any work at all, in my opinion. However, today he got a little more specific, and he mentioned balancing a class that doesn't exist in the Pathfinder system with the Pathfinder system. And he chose the example of the Warlock, which is really good because, unbeknownst to him, I was actually thinking of speaking about the Warlock on this very topic because he requested me to talk about it. So we must be on the same wavelength. So here we have the complete arcane. I'm going to take a look at the Warlock and give my suggestions on what I would do to essentially run this class in the Pathfinder system. Okay, so we're going to start up here. We're going to have alignment, any evil or any chaotic. Well, I find this a little restricting. All right, I would put down just non-good or non-lawful, for example, non-lawful. That way you can have neutral good warlocks and chaotic goods, and you just couldn't have lawful neutrals or lawful goods or lawful evils. So I think that just saying non-lawful gives it that kind of chaotic aspect to it. Though I'm not 100% sure you really need any alignment restriction on this class. There's nothing in this class that, to me, has to be evil. It's just that it tends to be tied into the whole concept of the darker forces. You can reskin a lot of the stuff in this class in a different way and make it less dark if you want to. But I would just go with non-lawful, and we'll run with it from there. Okay, hit dice, die 6. I think that's quite appropriate. Then we get into the skills. Now the skills are going to have to be tweaked slightly. For example, there's no more concentration check. And of course they've folded in a number of the acrobatic skills into one skill, and the stealthy skills into one. So I think that is quite appropriate. Now the class doesn't have diplomacy, and I can kind of see that. But since Pathfinder no longer has the penalty for class skills, you get a bonus when you have a class skill, but cross-class skills don't cost you any more. I don't think it's an issue. So in that regard, I don't think I would add diplomacy at all. I would leave it just like it is. And of course, it's got the use magical device, which is a very useful ability if you are a warlock. And then it has the skill points are going to be 2. Now, personally, I don't think any class should ever have just 2 skill ranks. Ever. 4 should be the absolute minimum, in my opinion. 4, 6, and 8. Those should be the 3 tiers for the skill points. But that's just me. There are people out there who are comfortable with just having 2. Have at it. But I would never have a class that just had 2 in it. Ever. Weapons, they are proficient with all simple weapons. They are proficient with light armor, but not with shields. Not going to change that in the least. That seems completely appropriate. The Warlock is all about ranged attacks. They are not about melee. There are different invocations which they can use to take advantage of their Eldritch Blast in melee, of course, but they're not primarily a melee class. Or melee, sorry. You have the invocations. Now, the number of invocations I would change. I would not change the power level. So the power level here, you start out with a least, of course, and then you get a lesser at 6th, and then you start getting up into a greater at 11th, and things like that. I would not change the power level at all. That's fine. I would change the number of invocations, however. I would allow 1 invocation per level. This fits, to my mind, right in with the whole concept that you get something for every level. Even though you get other things with the Warlock, not all of them are the best, and not all of them are all flexible. And since you only have a certain number of powers, and the Warlock is not casting true spells, everything is an at-will ability, but there are very few of them. I think having 20 of them is not a game breaker, but that's just me. I think it brings it in line quite nicely with other Pathfinder classes. We talk about the Eldritch Blast, and I think that's pretty much the way you need it to go without any problems. Attack magic at will, that's fine. You get damage reduction, that's good. Deceive item, that's a very useful ability. Fiendish resistances, energy resistance, the imbue items. I think all of these things fit right in with the Pathfinder system without a change. I would change the progression of damage, though. I would make it the same progression as the rogue's sneak attack damage. And of course, you're going to need a capstone ability. Now, for me, I think the perfect capstone ability is that you could now use two Eldritch Blasts. You would, of course, have the second one at a -5 as you would any iterative attack. And they can go up to, they go up, they have a pretty decent, at 20th level, they've got a 3/4 BAB, so it's +15, +10, +5. And remember, you are doing ranged touch attacks, so even with you a fairly average dexterity, you're going to be hitting things a lot. Ranged touch attack armors, or other touch attack armors, are not high, so that's not much of an issue. But I think if you made these fairly simple, straightforward changes, you would be bringing the Warlock in line with the other Pathfinder classes. Yes, it is in a lot of ways a one-trick pony. You've got your Eldritch Blast, and that's pretty much what you do. Your invocations allow you a good deal more flexibility, but a lot of them are based on modifying and augmenting your Eldritch Blast. So, you know, if you really have to be comfortable with the fact that you're playing a really good archer, essentially, and possibly the best archer in the game, because this one could be doing 10 die 6 damage, and if you have the capstone ability I'm suggesting, you'd be able to doing that twice per round. So that's pretty cool. But remember, that 20th level character doing 2 attacks that do 10 die 6 isn't all that unbalancing. You know, there are lots of magic spells out there. A sorcerer could be wielding that do 20 die 6 per attack. So it's in line with what other characters are doing. So these are how I would modify the Warlock, for example, to bring it in line with the Pathfinder rules. Now, I'm open to suggestions. You people agree with me, disagree with me. What are your thoughts? And are there any classes out there that you think need to be brought in line with the Pathfinder rules? Because remember, with the Advanced Player's Handbook, there are so many options out there for a Pathfinder game. I have a really hard time thinking of any classes outside of Warlock that can't be built with the Pathfinder system as it is. Warlock's a little unique. It really doesn't fit any of the Pathfinder classes that are available. So I'm interested in hearing what you have to say.